Peru News Today, all you need to know about Peru.
Odebrecht bribed Alan Garcia with money hidden in lunch boxes. The former presidential secretary of Alan Garcia acknowledged that Jorge Barata paid the former president $60,000 in cash each time he visited him at the San Isidro local aprista. He was the most loyal of all. But he couldn't stand almost half a year in jail. Nava Guibert, the former presidential secretary of Alan Garcia, but above all, a close friend of the former APRA, resolved to confess that the construction company Odebrecht paid him bribes. What Garcia always denied, and his defenders repeated intensely every day, in the media and on the streets, ended up being true. Nava recognized him. The former representative of the Brazilian company, Jorge Barata, was paying Garcia a kick in a lunchbox that he personally took to his office in San Isidro. Nava's defense argued that the APRA had decided to confess everything for health reasons. He did not want to die in a cell. But he also weighed that his son Jose Nava Mendiola, who was under arrest warrant, agreed with the Lava Jato special team to deactivate the arrest warrant in exchange for revealing what he knew. That Jorge Barata gave money to his father and he transferred him to Garcia. Nava had to decide between keeping his family together or keeping silence for loyalty to the former president. He chose the first. Nava said, according to the transcript of his statement that obtained in newspaper La Repubblica. I must state that, in the month of March 2006, President Alan Garcia did not know Jorge Barata, but he did talk about the Odebrecht, Nilberto, the old man, Emilio the father, and Marcelo, the son, as they were his friends. In these circumstances, I am aware that Luis Alva Castro invited Alan Garcia and Jorge Barata to a dinner at his home, at Los Laureles 670, Department 701, in San Isidro. After lunch Jorge Barata left the house, and Lucho Alva stayed with Alan Garcia. When Alan Garcia is retiring, Lucho Alva told him, "This briefcase has left you, Barata." In the briefcase, according to what Alan Garcia told me, there were $150,000, and I was going to use them in the electoral campaign. I was able to see the briefcase in the office of the Peruvian Aprista Partido campaign site, and I know that Alan Garcia took silver out of the briefcase for campaign expenses. In practice, Garcia's former secretary confirmed what his son, Jose Nava Mendiola, had told about the way the former head of state received illicit funds from Odebrecht. Luis Nava continued. I have seen Jorge Barata between 5 and 6 times in the campaign venue of the APRA party mentioned, usually in the afternoon, at 5. Jorge Barata was an elegant man, with a tie and thin shoes, and carrying a lunchbox of school-type food. Whenever Jorge Barata went to the campaign place, he went with a lunchbox. Jorge Barata pointed out that the first delivery of money was on December 12, 2006, for $328,000, but he did not give it to me. What I do know is that Jorge Barata in 2006, at the campaign site, gives Alan Garcia between 5 and 6 lunchboxes of approximately $60,000. Also, Jorge Barata said that in Peru he made the following deliveries. On December 31, 2006, $60,000, on April 6, 2017, $600,000, on September 27, 2017, $20,000. I know that these deliveries were delivered to President Alan Garcia in lunch boxes or briefcases when he visited the government palace. Even in one of those deliveries he gave him a Rolex and a Petit Philippe, Patek Philippe. He has never given me money, and from previous deliveries, he never gave them to me. Not only money and luxury watches granted Jorge Barata to the actor Alan Garcia. Also women. Nava said so, according to the transcript of his statement to which La Repubblica had access. Another aspect that I must indicate with respect to the briefcase that he gave me with other gifts in my house for Mr. Alan Garcia. I asked Jorge Barata what he had, and he told me that it was a little money for Alan Garcia, and that it was a business that he had done with him, and that the latter knew it. I didn't see or count the money because the briefcase had a key, and Jorge Barata told me that the president, Garcia, knew the key, and that he would give it to Garcia himself. I took Alan Garcia's briefcase and a few days later he told me. In the briefcase was this album, and he tells me. They are the company ladies that Jorge Barata wants to take to the Olmos's camp. As has happened with other defendants who were imprisoned or under arrest warrants, such as his friend Miguel Atala Herrera and his own son Jose Nava Mendiola, who offered relevant information on acts of corruption. After the confessions of Luis Nava, he requested variation of pretrial detention for house arrest. How did the authorities get to Nava? It all started when the Andorran authorities intervened in the private bank of Andorra, when Brazilian justice detected that Odebrecht had used this institution to pay bribes for everyone. The Public Ministry of Peru, through international cooperation, requested information and discovered that Miguel Atala Herrera was among the former officials of the second APRA government. Atala's son, Samir Atala Nimi, was the one who managed his father's secret account, so the prosecutors of the Nava Guibert special team requested his preventive detention. Forced by the circumstances, Atala confessed that the sum of $1,300,000 that Odebrecht had transferred to said account belonged to Alan Garcia because his common friend Luis Nava Guibert had told him so. Prosecutors were precisely investigating the transport company Don Reina, which Luis Nava transferred to his children and was managed by José Nava Mendiola. The authorities discovered that during the government of Alan Garcia and his secretary Luis Nava, transports Don Reina had signed contracts with Odebrecht for more than $17 million. When I left the judicial mandate of José Nava, he fled to the United States. But then he went to law and agreed to tell what he knew in exchange for the arrest warrant. He confirmed that his father received bribes from Jorge Barata for Alan Garcia. Luis Nava confirmed it this way, according to the judicial transcript to which this newspaper had access. Jorge Barata once delivered a backpack to my son José Nava Mendiola and told him it was money, but my son never saw it or told him the amount, and that it was for me to give it to Alan Garcia Perez. Another aspect that I should indicate, Jorge Barata asked me for a meeting at my house because we lived nearby. Before I receive it, I tell the president and he told me receive it, listen and tell me. And that would be at the end of 2006. Jorge Barata told me that he was very worried because the road, interoceanic, was very late and was about to stop, which meant firing thousands of workers, returning thousands of machinery, and that it would be more expense for the state for the additional. Alan Garcia and Jorge Barata had developed a very close friendship of complicity, although publicly he denied having a close relationship with the former representative of Odebrecht in Peru. When more and more signs of bribery appeared, Garcia came to say, "Try it, you morons." Recently in an interview with La Repubblica, the head of the Nava Guibert special team, senior prosecutor Rafael Vela Barba, said Garcia's suicide had not ended the investigation of his accomplices. Luis Nava told prosecutor Perez. Jorge Barata visited former President Alan Garcia up to 19 times in the government palace. Of those visits, Jorge Barata has visited him alone on 7 occasions. With Mr. Marcelo and Emilio Odebrecht on 3 occasions. With the employers of the patronage of the National Theatre, up to 7 times, and with other entrepreneurs, up to 2 times. In those meetings mentioned, I, as secretary of the government palace, observed that Jorge Barata always carried with a briefcase or lunchbox indistinctly. Nava will receive special shelter because her lawyer said she is a victim of death threats. Garcia's children clarified their studies. Carla, Josefina, Gabriela, Luciana and Alan Raul Garcia, the children of ex-President Alan Garcia, rejected Luis Nava Guibert's statements, why they are defamatory and lack legal evidence, and denounced that the objective of this is negotiate with the prosecutor his release. Of the facts that concern us as children, we want to immediately deny what was mentioned by Nava, in that the university studies abroad of the Garcia brothers were paid with illegal money from the Odebrecht construction company, they said. Each of the children reported that they covered their studies legally and that they made available to the authorities the documentation proving that it had been so. We consider it important to make this information publicly available so that it is clear that what Luis Nava said is absolutely false. It is easy for some to stain the memory of an already deceased person, they said. Nava will not be able to contact any APRA leader. After listening to Luis Nava Guibert by video conference, Judge Maria Alvarez Camacho decided to agree to vary the order of imprisonment against the former presidential secretary for that of house arrest. Among the prohibitions issued are the lack of communication with their co-investigators in the general file, such as Enrique Cornejo, Oswaldo Plasencia, among others. He can only keep in touch with his son José Nava Mendiola, who was retained 65 vehicles last August, also by the Odebrecht case. In addition, you cannot contact militants, leaders or members of the Peruvian Aprista party. At the end of the session, Nava's defender, Raul Noblezilla, was satisfied with the court order. Speaking to the Republic, he said that the starting point for Nava's declaration was his safety. The reason is the issue of security. Always prevailed. In the end, we had no choice but to tell the truth and sincerely contribute and answer the questions of the public ministry, he said. He also reiterated that Luis Nava witnessed first-hand deliveries to Alan Garcia. He was a direct witness and saw how Jorge Barata delivered lunchboxes at the campaign site. Dr. Garcia was confident and confessed that it was money for the campaign. Now you have to check if it was or not for the campaign. This demonstrates the close and immediate link between Alan Garcia and Barata. I didn't need intermediaries.
Visit at www.perunewstoday.com. Also follow on Facebook and Twitter.